The international landscape is currently defined by a state of multidimensional volatility that analysts characterize as a polycrisis. We are witnessing the simultaneous fracturing of economic, environmental, and political systems across every continent. The most acute stress test of this global breakdown is centered in the Middle East. Deepening regional conflicts and proxy wars are actively dismantling the established geopolitical order, leveling city blocks and upending millions of lives across the Levant. For scholars of biblical eschatology, this specific concentration of chaos is highly significant. Ancient texts describe a period of intensifying global tension, specifically focused on Jerusalem, acting as the birth pains that precede the final events of human history. As these individual crises overlap, they generate the systemic pressure required to dismantle independent national orders. The resulting instability acts as the primary catalyst for the emergence of a prophesied, unified global system. The Book of Revelation details a beast system, a global authority capable of monitoring the transactions and movements of every human being on Earth. For thousands of years, administering that level of absolute control was physically impossible. Modern authorities are currently engineering the exact infrastructure required for this level of administration, framing the project as a vital response to the polycrisis. What was once dismissed as purely supernatural speculation is now a measurable, heavily funded global engineering project. The foundation of this architecture relies on consolidating political power. Initiatives categorized under the Great Reset push for a restructuring of the global economy, transferring authority away from independent nations toward a centralized, stakeholder-driven model. The primary architects driving this shift are unelected supranational organizations. The World Economic Forum provides the intellectual framework to manage resources and human commerce under a single, unified umbrella. Parallel to the economic shift is the push for legal authority. Through proposed global pandemic treaties, bodies like the World Health Organization seek the power to dictate movement restrictions, medical mandates, and health policies directly to sovereign populations. Global crises like pandemics and environmental shifts provide the secular pretext to transfer power from local governments to a unified international authority. But political mandates require a mechanism of strict enforcement. That brings us to the second pillar: the transition towards central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. This schematic highlights the functional shift of the CBDC. Unlike standard digital banking, it is programmable money. Every transaction routes through a central authority gateway that actively scrutinizes the data before allowing the transfer to clear. Because the currency is programmable, the issuing authority writes code that dictates exactly how you use your money. They can restrict your spending based on your location, the time of day, or by declining the purchase of specific items. Tie this programmable architecture into a social credit score, and you have a system where buying and selling are entirely contingent on your allegiance to the state. It reflects the economic requirements described in Revelation 13. Under a fully realized CBDC grid, your participation in the economy is no longer a right. It becomes a conditional privilege maintained only through absolute compliance. The final requirement for this grid is the physical ability to monitor billions of people simultaneously. This is the third pillar, the integration of artificial intelligence and biometrics. Monitoring the global population used to require a massive human-run bureaucracy, which was prone to failure and fatigue. Now, autonomous AI handles the workload. It acts as an all-seeing enforcement mechanism capable of identifying dissenters in real time, functioning remarkably like the prophetic image of the beast that monitors and manages global affairs. This autonomous intelligence is already being integrated with mass biometric surveillance networks, silently indexing faces and analyzing behaviors across entire populations. The final step is assigning every individual a global digital ID built on facial recognition, iris scans, or DNA profiles, and hardwiring that identity directly to their programmable CBDC wallet. Once the physical human body is fused to the digital economic grid, there is no stepping offline. Your biological self becomes the final immutable authentication for the entire system, permanently locking the trap. The supranational governance, the programmable currency, and the AI-driven biometric tracking are converging to complete a singular architecture of control. Biblical warnings suggest this system arrives through a deceptive declaration of peace and safety, a diplomatic solution rather than a state of total war. The catalyst will likely arrive as a sweeping brokered covenant, an agreement designed to resolve immense geopolitical friction, specifically the religious and territorial tension in the Middle East, by uniting competing ideologies under one banner. As the compounding pressures of the polycrisis finally fracture the old world order, this unified digital grid will be rolled out. It will be presented as the only viable solution to ensure human survival. The rapid assembly of these technologies indicates that the era of sovereign independence is ending. The instability we see today is the transition phase, clearing the ground before this digital nervous system activates and demands our ultimate allegiance.